Okay, guys, it's so fantastic to see so many of you here today. That's first of all, I'm quite astonished by the numbers that have signed up, and let's see how many we get to signing in also. But anyway, sign up is also an activity in my heart that actually puts a pin there saying I'm actually interested. So you guys really rock by signing up, and you guys rock even more than the ones signing up because you also signed in. So give yourself a huge hand for that. Thank you so much for being here. I'm live and I'm going through the agenda in a minute. I just want to thank a few people who's contributed more than others to this book. I like to, of course, put a huge thank to Sune, who's been a huge part of the book and who's been actually the one pushing the book forward and getting it ready. So Sune, can you make some noise so everybody can see who you are?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, good.
Hello.
Sune will, of course, also make a presentation later today, but then it's also necessary to thank GAMIFY, which is a project under Erasmus program of EU that had supported the project, and Danish Design School, who's also been supportive to the project. But even more, I need to thank, of course, the Acti team, because without them, there wouldn't have been a book, and I wouldn't have been part of Acti either. So Acti guys, please make some noise so people can see who you are. If you're there. Yeah, good. I hope they came up first on the screen. Nice. Okay, we already did something in the chat, so I'm going to skip that. But during today, let's use the chat. If you have questions or anything alike, let's go to the chat and hit it there. Maybe the presenter won't be able to answer the questions right now, but then someone else will raise a flag and raise the question later on. So let's use the chat as we go along, and if there is headspace, we will answer the questions as we go through the program. Then let's have a look at the program to see what we're going to spend the next couple of hours with. We have 5 points on the agenda. The first thing is that we need to look into the book. Of course, why is the book at all being written? What is it all about? And I will start out, and then Sune will take over and give us a little bit of insight on his view on it. And then Sune will go into talk about the game that he's created with some of the clients under the program of GAMIFY. He will of course do a more firm introduction of himself and the design school. And after that, we will move into to a play session where we will play the game that Sune have designed, and that will be conducted by Ian Sturgis. And Ian, now it's your time to make some noise.
Hey everybody, good to see you.
Yeah,
we'll have some fun playing later.
Great. Ian is an old friend of the house. Ian and I've been doing a lot of programs when I was part of programs anymore, but at that time Ian and I did a few great things around the world. Ian, you will also make a more firmly presentation of yourself, of course, when you get the word. Then the next program is once we have played the game, that will take 45 minutes, and we will look at the session view and have a look at have some facilitation questions as we go along. We will go into how is Acti actually used as a learning tool, and Hempel has promised to share some of their experience. And that will be conducted by Tina and Christina, and Jesper is also their colleagues. But Tina and Christina, can you start by raising your hands and give some noise so people can see who you are?
Hello.
Good. And they will share some of their experiences with Acti. They have been transforming actually from the physical room into also being online and have experiences with different parts of the tool. And then we have reserved 30 minutes for Q&A, and that requires that we stay on time track along, or else we will take a little bit of the Q&A time. So that's the program for today that we are gonna dig into in the next couple of hours. I'll start. Do you have any questions? The chat is so quiet. It's so nice. I can't see you now, but because I need to see my notes.
There doesn't seem to be any questions right now live.
No, that's fine. I can see the chat. I'm gonna try and keep an eye on the chat. I just can't see your faces. So remember, I can feel your faces. So remember to smile, right? Keep smiling and encouraging as we go along. All right. Next one. Let's dig into where does the book come from? What is the idea of it, and so on. First, a little bit about Acti. I know most of you know Acti, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But I also know some of you don't know anything about Acti. So let me just briefly go over what is Acti and who are we. We are a company that provides learning, game-based learning experiences around the world. We cover different fields, and when I'm looking at these fields today, change management, leadership, and communication, they are actually not fully representative of what we do today. Because today, a lot more people are adding games in, a lot more people are adding theories into Acti. So the field that we cover in terms of themes our games have are much more wide than just change management, leadership, and communication. So next time I'm going to make a presentation, it's probably going to be something, some other words there than these three, because it covers much more. The games are much wider than just these three areas. It's basically a platform where there is 60 right now, 63 games. Oh, no, 60 ready games to play. And if we add in the quizzes and the tools, we are probably going to exceed 100 different activities centralized around games on the platform. What is a little bit special about games that is not comparable to other game mechanics that we know online is that we actually have theories beneath. So that means that you add a theory, you play around with a theory, and you do it in a kind of a VR interactive way where you design a artificial environment, you go in, you use the theory on different situations to see what comes out of it. And that's probably where we distinguish ourselves a little bit from the rest of game developers around the world. And it is today a platform where people are building games, and now they are able to publish their own games. And I'll return to this point a little bit later on how that is being played out at the moment. So that's enough about Acti. I'm sorry if that was a little bit too marketing for some of you, but that's the lowest I can get, and you could get me to talk even more about it if you liked. So I'm really trying not to say too much here. This is what I spent my whole time live doing, and I love it. So if you want more knowledge, let me know, right? Okay, let's dig into why we're here. And when we prepared for this event, I was kind of asking myself a little bit, why at all a book of change? And then I write again in the back, because a lot of you guys and a lot of people out there have been working with change for years. So isn't change a little bit declining in the world at the moment? I had that kind of idea in my head. And then I looked in a little bit to, is it actually declining? And what I did is I went into Google, and Google have this great functionality called trends, where you can kind of look at words or search words that are being used. And then I added in organizational change, and I looked at it from a 5 years period. And as you can see, it's not declining. There is it's not possible to say that change management is getting away from search engines or getting away as a topic on Google. It's actually stayed the same for the last 5 years. Then I thought a little bit about what about if we take organizational change versus leadership development. And then of course leadership development is more searched on Google than actually organizational change is over a 5 years period. But what caught my mind or caught my interest a little bit was the last bit of this graph. So I made a search on both of them. I narrowed it down to only be 90 days in times of COVID. And the interesting part of this is that you can see that actually leadership development is declining towards a lower level than change management. And what this tells me is that I think change is probably still a very important topic out there for people who, especially in these times, we are either looking a lot into change in terms of being in a lockdown situation or getting back to a totally different new normal than what we were used to be at before COVID-19. So change is still very important as a topic, but I think, and what also shows us in the numbers I will show you in a second, is that the time that we spend on change is a lot less than we used to, even though the topic is still important. So that's one of the arguments for why a change model or a way to look at change is still relevant. So taking that into Acti and taking that into why the interest is to me is that last year at Acti, I'll give you some statistics on why the interest is still important at Acti. Last year we had 600 games built on Acti. That's not 600 standalone games. That could be one building a game, making a copy, iteration of a game. But what is important here is that 80% of those iterations are on change. So that means that it's still the most heavily used or heavily focused area at Acti. It has always been, and it still is, and it's not declining with us either. We have 10,000 games played on Change last year, and that's still 80% of our activity when we look specifically on games. So Change is really an important topic. What has changed a lot is that we have 30 available theories added into Acti right now. So, and the book only have 10. So going from, so the idea is also that theories are less important, but the topic change is becoming more and more important. It's a matter of how we actually work on the topic change that becomes important. It will still be important in the next coming years, if you ask me. But what is a little bit different is that the most common played games in 2019 was the CRM game. It's a game about a system implementation system. It's a 6-year-old game, so it's been the same game for 6 years. It takes 4 hours to play it, facilitated minimum. You probably should have a full day to play it. But I'll show you a little bit what is changing right now according to these stats here. This is I looked into what is the top 5 games that we have been that have been played on Acti in 2019 and 2020, and then I have a little bit on 2021. But here we're looking at the games played in 2019, and what your attention should go to is that all of the games we have here are all change games, and they are all long games. It's you have the destination CRM that is a minimum 4-hour game. Then you have a shorter version of it that you can play between 2 to 3 hours, and then you have a merger, a long game, full day game. You have Mike that is only there because we did the leadership games, which were a shorter game, the first short game we did, and then you have the long-lasting lead. And you can see the most played game, the most active game is the long version of the CRM. This is in 2019. Then we enter 2020, and whoops, suddenly they shifted place. Now it's the short game. It's almost the same amount of times it's played, the short and the long, the year before. But what comes up on the list is other topics. So now you get the agile in as a theme. We get quarantined. Of course, we created a game on quarantine, so that became part of 2020, because a game on what does it mean that you're actually on a lockdown is of course relevant, and this game is a short game. So suddenly we have 3 short games on the list in 2020. So going from only 1 short game to 3 games, short games in 1 year, and then I just for the interest made this one for this year game being played. It is, to my surprise, still CRM that is up there as the 2 top games. I don't think they will be there as top 5 or top 10 when we are ending this year. But what we see in the top 10 games played in 2021, this year, in the last 2 months, is that we have the quarantine, the games that are related to COVID-19 is coming in just after the CRM games. Then we have the new lead, which is the leadership concept, and then we have different topics all the way down. So now we don't have the same topics on any games anymore. It's not the same chain theories, it's all different chain theories, and it's different games in terms of length. That is the big change. That is where we see. So let us sum up and bring this back to the book a little bit. So games are becoming on Acti more diverse, which is that means that change is not coming in one format. You don't need one chain theory. You don't need to have it in the same way. There is different theories. There are different ways to understand it, and the more closely it related to the context of people playing, the better result you get. So that means the more you design a game for specific people, the more value they get out of it, basically. we can also see that more theories is used and learned now. So it's not the John Cotter 8-step that is still the most used, but there are other coming into the field and actually allows users to add theories and get statistics and create profiles on top of those theories right now in the game builder. So going forward, a lot more theories will be added, and they are also created in a way where they become community games. So that means that if somebody creates a theory, publish it to the public domain, the theory becomes available for everybody designing games. Another thing that we see is that we have less time to consume games. That means that we are spending less time on playing games. So shorter games are becoming more and more used at Acti, and that will continue. We can see that all of the games we have been involved in that we see or get questions related to are short games, not long games anymore. We see more themes, of course, because you create more games. And then let me take that all the way back to the book before I hand the mic over to Sune. The hope for the book is basically can be put down to two simple things, which is the hope with the book. And the book is that we want more theories to be added to the cycle of change, and we want the book to be an inspiration to actually add your own theories into Acti. So change should not be a religion, or leadership development or organizational development in general should not be a religion. It should be an approach. You should have a framework, and that framework should allow you to add whatever you have of needs out in the organization. And boiling that further down, it means that the cycle of change is supposed to be a graphic framework for you to understand how change plays out in the workplace. So the actual cycle becomes a framework, and you can then add your own theories into it, whether you choose to use a game that is already created or whether you want to create your own game and add your own theories into it. That is basically the hope for the book. So if it contributes to this agenda, I think we have succeeded. That was my introduction to why the book is there and why it's relevant, and then I will hand over to Sune to take over.
Thank you, Leif. Great.
Do you want me to stop sharing, Sune, and you share?
No, I'll just say next slide to you when I'm ready for that. Okay.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much, Leif, and congratulations to Acti. It's really a nice effort, and it's been something you have worked up over a number of years. So it's your moment really this day. But of course, one of the things we also try to always do with the things here around game-based learning and so on is to not make it too much one-way communication. So be sure to throw in questions and so on along the way, and then we'll of course also to dive into a game in just 10 minutes or so. But I've been lucky to collaborate with Acti over the years, and it's been really nice to jump into some of these tasks together with Acti. I come from my primary job is actually at Design School Kolding in Denmark, where I'm associate professor in game-based learning in organizational development. And sometimes I've had the chance to have some sidekick projects and so on, and it started a little bit that way when I started to work with Acti. At that point, there was not much online. So that's also a very interesting journey. And when Leif started to talk about this, I was a little bit, are you going to lose the floorboard? What are you going to do? And so on. But it's really been interesting to follow this along the year. And that's also because as any kind of consultant, process facilitator, or whatever you prefer as your main title, that's Leif, could you just next?
Sure.
Because I have a few animations. Yes. So this is so for instance, as any kind of process facilitator manager, I would say nowadays we need to have all sorts of hybrid options available for our training and learning sessions. And for me, hybrid means a combination of offline and online, but also a combination of having something for different situations. And that's why it's really interesting for me to follow ACT and this simulation engine they actually have. I would call it that, with a lot of interesting game techniques and data element into that. So if you could take the next slide. So I don't see it as a replacement of all physical training sessions. That I think nowadays, after a year of online meetings and so on, we see that there is a Zoom fatigue, for instance, that is just too much, right? But when we get to I wouldn't call it a normal day after COVID, because we now actually have many of us have a even better digital competence, right? So we will likely stick to that and hold on to that. And then a few of the physical training sessions will also come back. So I believe it to be the ability as a process facilitator to actually have a full range of approaches to put in here. And this is where ACT for me also comes in a lot of times to use that online simulation engine. So next slide.
Good. One is writing in the chat that she can't see your slides. Can you guys see the slides?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I can see them. Yes, me too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's enough. Thank you. Sorry, Sune.
No problem. No problem. That's why we have the chat and so on, and of course also other questions. Okay, so in some having these hybrid opportunities is really what I look for, and there are of course other platforms and so on than ACT. But what I like about what has happened with ACT in the last couple of years is that the flexibility and the customizability in this platform is reaching a level of very interesting opportunities. So you can actually customize quite a lot and move a lot of things around. That means that it's even more interesting for consultants, I would say. So let's take the next as well now. And then also, of course, when we are interested into these areas of workplace learning in general and organizational development and change and so on, then it's nice to have a platform that actually on a content level also really understands this field. And that's why I'm at least trying to use ACT quite a lot of times in that. So if we can go for the next slide as well. So some of the things I can see here on the ACT platform that is really interesting for me and been so over the years, and now that where it's gaining more options on customizability, then it's this instant feedback on actions and choices. And we would need that before we go out and do any kind of change process. If we can have that kind of feedback on our actions and choices, that's what game-based learning for me is all about. That we can see the reactions from, in this case, stakeholders played out directly in the game. It might not be the completely realistic, but it opens up for discussions and alternative ways of doing things. And that's why it's interesting. Can we take the next slide? Then the options here to include debriefings and so on, so we can kind of stop the game a little bit, and you will likely see that in the moment when Ian go lead you through this game, that there are some good debriefing options here where you just stop the game for a moment, you take it up and you discuss what just happened, and then you go dive into the next part of the game. And that's in game-based learning situations, that's really important. Next slide. And then, of course, what they have nowadays on ACT is that is this with because they have all the data and so on, more users are using the system and the platform and so on. We can have these infographics so we can actually see how people progressed in the game, what kind of choices, and we can compare it all, and it can turn into these infographics where we can actually discuss again by the end of the game what just happened. Yeah, next. And then so I'm very interested also in you know, the, should we call it today, old school classic way also of doing group session, training sessions, and so on. And there's a tactile part of that you cannot really have online. But instead, what you really can have here is games that can be played individually, and then you meet up, for instance, by the end of the week after having played it and discussing it. You can have it in groups, and then you can also have it in large meeting networks or event settings. And I think that's really one of the reasons also why I jump into this, is that the scale of it, it's easy to put up. So next, yeah. Yeah, and Leif already said a little bit about this. But for me, it's obvious that the organizational change is still important, and maybe more important than ever. And that has something to do with technology development, market movements, changing customer demands, and societal conditions like the COVID crisis we have right now. And it also means that there's a higher number of changes, and we have to live with that and cope with that along the way. Having training sessions online, like on change management and organizational change, is something that can help us quickly to get a sense of what kind of approaches and alternatives can I use. Next. And maybe the next as well, Leif. This is a beautiful picture of that supertanker of an organization, and we have been talking about that before and so on. But what we also see now, of course, with COVID as an example, is that it's just very, very difficult to turn that one around. And that means that we get a number of new practical based theories and so on how to change that, how to change these operating organizations when they have to move into new directions. And for instance, we see that in the health sector now, that some of the systems that they had before COVID is just not good infrastructures anymore. So there's something there where we can see that the supertanker is not only a private problem, but a private organizational problem, but also a public one. Next. And then from my perspective, it has something to do with the ability here to evaluate some of these practical change theories up against each other. And then when you do that, and when you come across other theories, or you have your own practical experiences, the good thing is here you can combine some of these existing change theories that you maybe picked up from ACT or somewhere else, and then you can combine it with some of your own thoughts and some of your own practical experience and put that in to this game engine as well. So the customer first change game here was something we created in this project called GAMIFY. This is an EU project together with 3 countries, with the university partners and quite a good number of large private companies. And 2 of the companies was Generali Insurance in Germany and 3M in Spain. And what came up through some of the when we had some interviews with some of the good people at these companies was that one of the bigger problems and challenges for them in this particular one was actually how to keep the focus on the customers along the way, so they were not lost in infrastructure and personal interest and culture issues in the company. So they always had a way to keep focus on the customer and not internal issues as such only. And that was something they called customer first at the 3M at some point. And that was something we therefore looked into. And then we decided to have a go with the ACT on this one and see how it could look like in this online simulation. So this is about keeping focus on the customer centric products and services. So instead of being threatened by internal interest, beliefs, and infrastructure. Next one, live. Yeah. We took, and this is just an example of course, well, you could put any other kind of practical theories or whatever you would put into these games into this. What we did here was we took one from Rick Mauer, which is one of the core change theories that has been used quite a lot on the Active platform, and we combined that with number 2 live. Yes, one more. Yes, exactly. Some recent thinking here from sorry, the book from Rick Mauer is from 2010. It's the second book here that is from 2020, and in this one, Nikolai and Christian, it's also becoming quickly a bestseller, but they talk very much about this, with having connected strategies with customers and how to put that to the forefront of things instead of looking inwards and into the infrastructure to begin with. You look at how can you always have these connected strategies with the customers. These two I combined into this game and then built up some chapters and steps and so on, and also customized it a little bit. Of course, this is only one example of a game you can do, and one kind of way to build in change theories and customize it along the way. But this is just the one we will have a go with today. And luckily for me, today I have on board Ian, who is one of is really a great capacity on facilitating these sessions. So live, could you just introduce Ian a bit more?
I love to, yeah, but especially because one story about you, Ian, is we had a partner day in 2019 before COVID-19, and you suggested that was in December, and I remember it was a physical meeting here at Roskilde. I can't remember, were we 20 people or something, and yeah, you suggested at that time, to the shock of all 20, that you could actually run it online. So you were post-COVID, getting ready for COVID without knowing it, Ian. You were the man who did it online before everybody else even discovered that that was possible.
Let me add to the story then, Life, and thank you for the introduction. You can stop sharing for a minute. Let's just to see people for a minute. So yeah, we have to go way back, because I wished for a couple of things at the beginning of last year, 2020, which was to work from home more and travel less. And all I would say is be careful what you wish for, because actually this dates back a long time ago when Tim's on the call with us, and I had the pleasure of meeting Frank in Cologne, sponsored by Marcus, who's also on the call here, as we were working with a CLP World, Change Leadership and Partners. So we were looking for an online simulation back then, but to deliver it in a classroom context. But of course, a lot changed in the intervening years, and there are many other people on the call that have worked with me and worked with us at CLP as well. But our clients back then wanted something interactive and dynamic in the classroom. But you're right, back in December 2019, we were just looking at the experience I had, and it was Marcus's fault. I'm going to be very critical now. He forced me, because you did, Marcus, you forced me to convert a face-to-face program, because the client pushed back, into an intermediary module, which was fully virtual. And I'm so grateful that we did it, Marcus, because it gave me a huge insight into the challenge, because Acti's always been online, but the facilitation hasn't been. And I think that's the difference. And that's the experience that I've got. So by show of hands, a wave of hands or a thumbs up, how many of you have actually delivered online workshops, fully virtual, using Acti Change? Yeah, that's many more, isn't it, live, since we introduced this concept. And it's a bit scary, but it's really cool at the same time. And so we're going to play a little bit today. So again, by show of hands or thumbs up, how many of you do not have experience of using the game, so therefore you don't know about the theories or the gameplay? Anybody who doesn't? So Jens doesn't. Anybody else? Annette, not so much, and not so much. So most of us do, but a few of us don't. So I'm going to reach out and make this more interactive, because I can, and there's no script for this bit. So let me pick on people. Marcus, because you kicked a lot of this off in my world. Rick Mauer is one of the fundamental gurus, if you like, which a lot of the gameplay is based on, the cycle of change. He's going to hate me for this now. Marcus, can you remember any of the phases of the cycle of change from Rick Mauer? Any of them at all? And Tim,
you start in the dark.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, in the dark and going around the wheel. So in the game we're going to play, we don't make that explicit because we're using the work of Nikolai and Christian and their different phases relating to connected strategies. But underneath, there's a whole philosophy. Let's pick on Tim. Tim. So Rick also talks about resistance levels or energy. What are the levels of resistance that we have to worry about in people's reactions to change?
Well, sometimes it can be not understanding it. Sometimes it can be a more emotional reaction of not liking it. And sometimes it can be not liking you, Ian, but that's sometimes meant more you in the context that you're operating in.
And this is how Tim's feeling now, having me put me on the spot just like that. So excellent.
Yeah, I can handle it. It's just, you know. No.
Excellent, excellent. Who else do we have? Let's looking around. So Birgit, we have Birgit as well. Hang on, Life. Was that a ticking me off? Or was
Yeah,
that...
no, that was just. I just wanted to suggest if you want to feel how Rick Mauer is going about resistance. Do you want to have a emotional body feel kind of experience?
Go on.
Do you want? Okay, everybody, then get up of your chairs. You have to stand up, so get out of your chairs. And then you have to raise your hand. You have to get up too, Peter. Peter's not listening. You have to raise your hands and as high as you can. And when I say now, you have to touch your feet. Are you ready? I didn't say yes. Wait till I say yes, right? And then you have to do it every time I say yes. Oh, now, touch your feet. Okay, now touch your feet. 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 Now touch. Oh, okay, stop there. Did you think about why he's doing this to us? Did you kind of thinking, or if he continues, I'm gonna be insecure about I look stupid. I don't think I have the appropriate clothes to do this. And did you also, if I continue, would you think he's an idiot?
We knew that already.
You knew that already. Okay, so that was just a way to go through his. Sorry, Ian.
No, love it. But that's the thing, and what I like about Rick Mauer's work, and if you haven't, even if you're a facilitator and you use some of it, go back and read some of his original work and the later work as well, because he's moved on from resistance to energy, and it was very nice. Thank you, Life, for getting some energy into our systems just then, and the way we can react to these things. But when you look at it as energy, it's okay. So Tim, thanks for that. Thank you, Marcus, about being in the dark. The other thing, of course, we have in the game is stakeholders, because these are the people, us in the case of this particular call right now, who are reacting in certain ways. And then we have, what's the missing piece? Birgit, what's the physical piece, which is more about the change than the people? Birgit, what is it that's represented? What's the metaphor? What's the symbolism that we refer to? Do you remember on the board? It's got quiet now. Edita?
Do you mean the boat?
The boat.
Change itself?
Yeah, the boat of change, and then getting people on board. So these are the ingredients that all these games have. Hey, Birgit. She knew that. She was just waiting for Edita to comment. But of course, what's the biggest thing? And I'll reveal a little picture to summarize all this, because we often forget. We've got the stakeholders. We know they're going to be in resistance, or they're going to have energy in the process. We know we're helping them navigate through a cycle of change. And we know that we can apply many theories to help people around this cycle of change. But as leaders of change, ourselves or our clients, what do we have the ability to do? It's a trick question. If I give you a clue, if you think about a lot of the cases, and we're going to be playing with a particular customer first case today, what's in the essence of the game? What do you have the opportunity to do? Can't hear you, Meta. I think she said make choices. If you didn't, then just put your hands up anyway, because that's the correct answer. So I think she's going to say make choices. And that's what these games are all about. And as Suna was saying earlier on, and Life has said for many years, it's the quality of the decisions, but the only way to find out what to do is possibly to find out what not to do. And that's the beauty of games, because we learned that at school. We've been experimenting like that for many years, but we forget in the workplace, we don't like to make mistakes. So if we can make changes by making experimental decisions and do it in a safe way, then all the better. So that's what we're doing. And all these games, they typically have 3 phases, whether 3 or 6 chapters. They've got 24 fields we go around, they've got scores and all sorts of cool stuff. And of course, anybody who knows, who's been hanging around with Life in the Team for a few years, if I share my screen quick, you'll recognize that the board itself, and I say board now, meaning the virtual board, it looks a bit different, doesn't it, Life? Yeah, as does the physical, if you ever get to use the physical. But the design, the graphics look different. Yep. And you know why? Because he keeps changing it, which is so frustrating. All the time it changes and develops, and you know the experience and what that means as we go through the process. So we're very shortly going to play a game together. I'll pop in the chat a link, and for those that know a bit about the game, in fact, for all of you, can you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I need you to swear an oath for a minute. So raise your right hand, repeat after me. Ian. I will not.
I will not
move on to the next chapter.
Move on to the next chapter.
Until you say move on to the next chapter.
Until you say move on to the next chapter.
Are we still recording live? Just make sure yeah, we are. Yeah, good. We just say that because we want to just do a quick little check-in and debrief after the first chapter. And the good news is there's only one decision to make in each chapter. So it's a pretty quick game we're going to be playing together. So if that's a deal, that's a deal. So so here we are. I should be sharing my screen now to show you some of the cool things that you may or may not know much about, but we're going to be playing battle mode, which is a chance. So you're playing it on your own, but you're battling with scores. And even when Life and I just do a quick demo of this to make sure I'm up to speed on the new game.
We promise not to say anything.
Yeah, but we're always competing, aren't we? Yeah, you can't help but compete, even two of you playing this game. And I've seen some of the most laid back, you know, typically British people and audiences who really get into the gameplay, and they'll be in the bar later on when we used to go to hotels and replaying the game in the garden with a glass of wine to try and get a higher score. So there is something behind this gameplay that goes on. So you'll notice in here, if we have 40 odd people on the call, then there'll be lots of people, too many to actually see all the individual scores, but we can share some of them in some of the cool dashboard views that we have. And you'll get some scores, you get some comparisons. But that's the game. In this particular game, we'll bring to life, as we know already, these 3 levels of resistance. I'm hoping you're getting it. I'm hoping you'll like it. And if you don't trust me, then I hope you trust the process that we're going through today. So I think if I stop sharing for a moment, we're getting to the point where we can do a quick demo. Life, do you think it's still good for me to just show people me having a little go with it? I'll put the link into the chat. Should we do that? So I've got set up here, and you'll do something very similar in a moment, just to play the game yourself when I give you a link. So it's the customer first game, and Suna was saying it's by these 2 gentlemen who co-authored this book. And if I can just give you a quick anecdote, I was a big believer in John Cotter is the primary change philosophy, just because I knew it very well. And since then, through being nudged by people like Tim and Marcus and other people, I've really embraced the fact that it's just a layering concept, and it's just a language. You can take off Cotter, you can put on something else. Marcus and I work with a particular client, and they didn't want to use anything other than their own internal language. So you can just take it off and put something else on. This is what's happened here. But not only that, you can even remove almost the programming and replace, as Mike was saying, with different cases. And this particular one I love because it's so simple. I mean, it's overly simplified, which means it's quick. It means you make a very rapid impact on something which is typically really challenging for companies to have a real customer first philosophy or a strategy that's actually implemented, where people know what it means, where they can actually relate to the decision making, and they can play around with some interventions to see they're actually promoting a customer first or doing the opposite in terms of the stakeholders. What's the phrase? Happy staff, happy customers. So if you have a customer first strategy, but you're doing all the wrong things as a leader in your business, it's not going to work for you. So let me share my screen, and this is where you'll get to when you get into the game in a moment. You should see there the kind of welcome area where you get to with a link. So we're going straight into to this process. It'll be a battle game, as you can see here. If you want to, you can download the handout and have that available. If you're anything like me, you just make it up as you go along, and you don't do the. Do you read instructions when you buy a piece of IKEA furniture? If you do, then download the handout. If you don't, you can overlook that. As we get into the game, how many of you love the pulsating orange head, by the way? It's one of the best bits, isn't it? Martin put his thumbs up really quick then. So this particular game talks about, well, it actually talks about 3 phases, although the theory has 4 phases, and number 4 is repeat. And the first one is recognize. The next one, let me remind myself, is request, and the third one is respond. So these are the 3 phases which relate to the 3, if you like, elements, and as you go around the sequence of the board. So the important thing is that when you do this for yourself, you actually read some of this text, because it's relevant to get you into the context of what's going on. And there's an initiative here to implement this customer first strategy. And the next thing that comes up is a whole bunch of interventions that you can do. And of course, as always, we have to make the best decision you can with limited information you have. So we know that we're, if you like, battling with each other. Any help you need with the icons at the bottom, you have this little menu on the left-hand side here. So we have the game history, your scores, etc., etc. If you want to know what those are, just click on the buttons and you'll be soon to see what's happening. 4 down the bottom here just tells us how many people are playing the game when we get into the game mode, so we can come back and see what's going on with hopefully 30 or 40 people playing at once. When you look at the game board, you can click on these people. If we click on the D, we get Diana up. She's the one who's driving through. Funnily enough, she's not in the boat. If you notice, she's one place behind the boat. So even she is not up to speed, maybe where she needs to be. In resistance, she's in level 0. If you want to get to know her, you can find out a bit about her. I don't know what her psychometric profile is, but they all have a little bit of a personality behind the scenes as well. So clicking on these faces, you know this already, you can get to know these people. And we've got a couple of people in resistance. Frank here, level 1, he doesn't get it. And we got another one here who, yeah, he's not very happy, he's overworked. I think that goes for most of us at the moment. So we have all these options, and all we have to do when we're playing the game is click on the green arrow in the middle there. And in the case of the first chapter, the first round, we get 6 choices. By expanding the pluses, you get to see what these all are. But what we're doing at the moment, we're in the recognize phase. So we have to find out which is the most appropriate first thing to do. I remember years ago, Life, I was working with one of our clients out in Bangkok in Thailand, and very experienced change leader. He says, Ian, I don't get it. And it's not just the game, it was his real life. I'm doing all the right things, but they're not working. And I had to stop myself from laughing, because I was thinking, well, how do you know you're doing the right things? And that's the cool thing about this game. We are going to ask 30 or 40 of you to play the game, which means that you won't all pick the same one, I doubt very much. So we'll get to see what happens if you pick 1, or you pick 2, or you pick 3, or you pick 6. And we'll get to see which is the best one. But behind the scenes, some of these things are more appropriate to be done at this stage in the process. And as you get into the game yourself, have a quick read, but instinctively, when I first play games, I'm looking for, well, what would I do in this situation? And I go and search that thing. But before I select it, I say, what also could I do? And maybe I consider that as well. So you get the benefit of learning from each other as well. I'm not going to make a choice though, Life, because if I do, you get to see that I either know what I'm talking about or I'm rubbish at leading change. So if I just stop sharing my screen for a moment, I think we're ready to pop the link into the chat.
Maybe it's important to say, Ian, that they get the result screen and they should not move on from the result screen, right?
Yeah, that result screen is where you mustn't move on, because we haven't locked the system to prevent you, but we do want to pause at that point. So if you want to know about the next set of choices you have, you can have the downloadable guide, if you like, the case handout if you want. But yeah, just to make sure I have the right link. Life, would you mind popping it into the chat? Would be that okay?
That'll
Just
be
to
fine.
make sure. Any questions before we get into the game? And it doesn't take long, just have a bit of fun, and then we get instant results, and then I can share my dashboard with you. But any questions, particularly for those that don't know much about the games or are quite new to the online gameplay?
How much time does it take, Sturgis?
So how much would you like, Maria?
Oh, I'm not familiar how many chapters there are.
So so it's only 1 decision per chapter, and Life, we were going to probably finish around about 1/4 the hour, weren't we, or something like that. Yeah. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to your first decision, because it takes a lot longer to get familiar in the first process. So we'll give you 5 minutes to see where you can get to. And if, to be honest, you just got to select one and see what happens. I mean, I don't want to ruin the process for you, but that's one of the most effective ways of finding out what to do, is to try something and see what happens. Okay, so
the link is in the chat.
All right, all you do is you click on that link.
Where is it? It's not here.
Oh, no, it's not there actually.
Not there.
You may have just sent it to somebody privately, live.
Yeah, send it to everyone.
Yeah, okay.
That's one of the great things about Zoom. It remembers who you last had a private message with.
There
you go. So one thing just to mention, and I doubt very many of you are working on very old browsers, but Firefox, Chrome, and Safari are the best browsers to use. Microsoft Edge does work, but the old Microsoft Explorer, can't imagine anybody still running on that software. If you are, now's a good time to upgrade.
You would be surprised.
You'd be surprised, yeah. Now, when I first looked at this game live and we were having a little competition with each other, I felt incredible pressure to make a good decision on this. And of course, after I tried something that wasn't very good, I then lost that worry, if you like. So don't worry about the decision, but do read some of the background, what it is that they're trying to do. Try and get underneath the designer's eye, if you like, of what was going on. So sooner in the team that put this together, what were they trying to achieve to help people embrace a customer first approach?
And just to let you know, you only need to enter your name when you press the link. You only need to enter your name in the top field.
Yeah, you're coming in as a guest, aren't you? So it's a very nice, slick, fast way into the process. Do either chat us or ask a question openly. There's no such thing as a silly question. We may give you some dumb answers, but do reach out.
Shall we start playing it?
Please do. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we're just making one decision first, right?
Yeah. So in the first round, the recognize, you get 6 options. Expand them all. Have a little read, and then when you have the confidence to give it a go, click on the one you think, and then see what happens. You'll get your instant results. You'll get a score. But at that, just wait for us there. And by all means, give us a thumbs up on the Zoom screen if you got to that point, and we can see.
I'm gonna win this time, Ian.
Well, I can take the facilitator role, so I don't have to play today, right? So I'll give you the chance. How do you know that I've not crunched every algorithm opportunity of mixing all the scores to make sure I know the right? That's the thing that I find most frustrating about these games live, is you never tell me how the algorithm actually works.
You can actually see that in the background system.
Yeah.
Is there something live where you can, with face recognition, you can actually see what they will choose?
I have a hypothesis, yeah.
I love to do kind of a predictive suggestions, right? You are that kind of type. You're probably going to go for these two.
Well, I know that Tim's with us here. He's sat in the avenue of trees there. Tim and I, we've used some psychometrics like chain style indicators or Hogan in the past. Yeah. We have tried to predict, and we've even made groups, small teams of people on purpose to see if we can quantify the likelihood of them picking or making certain choices. And it does, yeah. I mean, the thing that I think is most valuable to many of our clients using these games, and it's certainly true of a customer first game like this, it's not just the decisions that people make, it's the way the teams work together to create that decision. And that's the biggest, I think, thing. Jan has a question.
Leader, I think Live broke the oath already. He is. I think he is in 2nd or 3rd round already.
That may be from a previous.
He's disqualified. I think she should be declared disqualified right now.
I'm not including his scores anyway. Don't worry. It's all good.
No. Although he is the CEO of ACTI, he should be disqualified.
Yeah.
And not even only for the game. There are other areas where I should be disqualified. I promise you.
Let's ask Pernilla. Huh?
Yeah.
This is why we never look to our politicians to be good role models. Okay, that's the same issue, right?
I got lowest points. I'm just telling you. Damn.
So using the thanks, Mads. Use the reactions there. Do give me a thumbs up if you've made your choice for the first chapter.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Wonderful. And just because I know it was in a previous demo that we were doing, I think Life in his current capacity has not gone on to other chapters, but there you go. So one of the challenges of having such a big group playing in battle mode is, well, you have the opportunity through a session view. It's one of the features of the facilitator's role. Many of you know this already, working virtually with ActiChange, is to be able to then show some of the results. And if I bring up some of this data, in fact, before I bring up any data, tell me a little bit about the decisions you took. So by show of hands, okay, we'll look at the data in a minute. By show of hands, you had one of 6 choices to make. Let's just pick on some different people. So let's pick on Anton. Anton, are you there?
I am.
Can you tell me which number, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 you picked and why?
I picked number 2,
Number
discover
2.
latent needs, because we are in the recognizing phase, and it seemed like the right option.
Okay.
One of the right options.
One of the good options. Okay, excellent. How many other people picked number 2? Anybody else? Okay. Did you remember? Can you see how many points you got for that choice, Anton?
It's 250 points.
250. It's okay. It's okay, but there are higher scores, aren't there? Like there are higher scores. Yeah. Could be worse. Could be worse. Yeah. Good start. Good start. Okay. Who got a higher score than 250? Tim put his hand up pretty proudly there. Dirk-Jan did as well as Isabella. So Dirk-Jan, which was your choice? Let's see if it's the same as Tim's. So Dirk-Jan, what was your choice? Which number?
Was number 6.
Number 6. Okay.
I don't remember.
How many points did you get for that?
340.
340. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Tim, what did you get?
I did number 6 as well.
Ah, same score. Right. Okay. Anybody pick something other than those 2 so far, number 2 or number 6? What did so Isabel? What did you pick?
I picked number 1.
Number 1. Why did you pick number 1?
I think it's because we work a lot with the CRM system internally at ACTI, and I see how it works and why it should work.
Okay.
To have a great customer overview.
Yeah. Now, can you imagine if many of us were playing this game together? We're playing in a battle mode now, just see who gets the highest points and what some of the better, not the best, but the better choices may have been. All of a sudden, we've just got 3 or 4 examples. There are different choices, all with different particular scores. So even if we go no further in the game for a moment, we just pause there, we can start to get a real insight into people's values and motives and beliefs around anything to do with change, but particularly around customer first. Excellent. Is anybody really proud of their move and they're very confident they're going to win this? Because is there a prize for the winner? Life, I forgot to answer.
There's a book, of course.
Oh, you get a book. Yeah.
Of course.
Any book that we may have read before? Is it a new book?
A new one. Totally new. But the mind-blowing new book on change.
That book. Okay.
And games.
And game. Yeah, good to know. Yes. Who's really proud and confident? Carmen's got a hand up. I'm not sure if that's relevant to my question or just putting a high five up. I don't know. Mads is a little bit. Yeah, okay.
No. It was to the previous question. No.
Okay, previous question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good choice. Yeah. Good. Okay. Life. Give me a bit of help just for a minute because I'm in battle mode. I'm wondering what's the easiest way to remove some of the people off the board. Otherwise, it gets a bit busy. What's the best way of doing that in this mode?
It's the best way is to go down and then click on. Do you want me to add someone?
Yeah. Would you share your screen, just bring it up and I'll facilitate a little conversation. Just give us some data that you would like us to look at. Because what we can do is the challenge with battle mode with 30 odd people together is that the contrast, you get a lot of data to go. So further on, you can load individual groups and then just give us something just to have a look at, and then we can see the board overall. Here we go. Excellent. So do we know who we got there? Who did you pick?
I picked maybe we should explain what we are looking at. This is everybody who's playing right now is coming up on this board. So down you can see each one of you with your name, and we can score how far have you gone, and then we can choose to look at what choice have you made in chapter 1 as a debrief. And now I'm clicking on myself to look at the choice I've made as my first choice, and then we can decide who we want to look at on the top board and compare those two scores. Right now we have Peter Gallagher on and we have Johan on, but I'm not sure Peter Gallagher is interested to be on, so I'll just add on another person here.
Yeah, put Anton on there. That's cool.
I'm gonna add the yellow on, and then up on the board we have a yellow, which is Anton. We have a blue, that is Johan, as the two ones that we can compare up here, and we can basically choose anyone to put up here. Now they made the same choice, so maybe that's not so fun.
Find Tim, but let's put Tim up there as well.
There is Tim.
Yeah.
Let's take Tim
there
up
we
there.
are.
There we are.
Different choice.
So now we have Tim up there too. Tim, you're behind.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go.
Ah, yeah, but he has a different. Again, remind me who. I think it was a Stephen that hasn't had much experience. Was that right, Stephen? You there? Stephen? Somebody. Put your hand up if you haven't been too involved with this before, because I'd love to get your perspective on what we're seeing. So Annette, so if you look at this board, if I just tell you what you're looking at, so the yellow and the light blue or the grey, we know they're the same scores. The stakeholders are in the same position. But when you look at the yellow and the purple together, I think that was Anton and Tim, what do you notice about the stakeholders? The boat is further back in Tim's case. His score, I think, is slightly less, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. But look at the position of the purple people, the purple pieces. What do you notice about their positioning?
Well, they are ahead of yellow.
In many cases, the boat may not be as advanced, but the people themselves are actually nearer to the particular boat of colour, the same colour, but they're also in lower resistance levels as well. We've got 4 of the purple pieces, there are only 7. 4 of them are in there, I don't get it. 2 are in no resistance at all. And only 1 and I don't like it, and nobody in that level 3, which is to do with trust and relationships. So it's interesting how even in this one decision, we've already seen a difference of outcome, because we haven't advanced the change so much, but we also, in the case of purple, we haven't increased resistance. We haven't created more resistance, and that's one of the cool things about the game. It does this constant balancing between pushing on with the change and then pulling the people on board. Now, of course, if Tim continued with the same strategy, he might get more people on board, but he may not push forward with his initiative so far. And Anton may achieve more in terms of the initiative from the external perspective, maybe, but not from the internal culture and the acceptance of the change. And anybody challenged with a customer-first strategy, I'm sure, would recognise that tension between what the customers think and what the staff think about achieving those ambitions. Okay, I think, yeah.
Would there be a bias of people being polite and going with, like, how honest are they about not liking the changes is being stated?
So in the case of the gameplay and the algorithms that generate the movements, it's pre-programmed. So if you do certain things and you pick certain choices, depending on where they're starting from, they'll move in certain ways, and this is coded. Very much like people's motives and motivations and behaviors, generally speaking, plus a little bit of personality and psychology as well. So there's no danger of them being too polite. They're just being themselves as the characters that they're identifying with. What's much richer, I think, in that is the conversation that we have after we ask a question like that. Because then we say, well, in the game, no, but in real life, that's a really interesting question.
Yes.
How do you see it in your business? Is that something that people are, on the surface, it's all, yeah, I get it and I like it and I love you. and then behind the scenes it's like, yeah, good luck with this change, I'm not on board, and yeah, I'm busy doing other stuff. Yeah, and that's the danger, I think, or the challenge is, do we know the honest moves that people are making? Yeah, but after all, this is a gameplay, but it generates those questions. Should we try another chapter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So you now are allowed to move on to the next chapter. So to do that, you go down and you wherever you are, you may have to click a cross on the top right somewhere to move forwards, but you need to get to the next chapter. It comes up chapter 2 or 3, and then you'll get that green arrow facing to the right again at the bottom, which you can press. So I'll give you a few minutes just to see what comes up. You have a slightly harder choice this time. You have to choose one of 8 in the next chapter. Let's ask Sooner a coaching question, because he was instrumental in developing the game. So if we look at the concept, recognize the first phase of this 3-chapter game. We're in the request now. So without giving us too much of a giveaway in terms of which we should pick, what's the essence of the request phase in a change process for a customer first? So this connected strategies, give us a little flavor of what should be going on in this part of the process. Can you help us at all?
Yeah, but I don't want to give it away, right? But
yeah, give it really high level, but just give us a flavor so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but I can say it on the level of creation that normally what I look into here and what I've found to be the best way of doing some of these games is that there's not a single answer, right? So each of the opportunities you have will lead to, maybe it's a little bit better score, but that's all. So it's not the same on each, right? So you need to have, so each choice leads to pro and cons in a sense. But there's some of them that might be because they are a little bit closer connected to connected strategies, right? So that's also the feedback when you take one of the choices you then get and can look closer into. And you might not agree, which is absolutely also one of the points, right? And the question you had before, and it is exactly what we want to do between chapters, right?
Yeah.
We want to discuss how do you see this? Do you see it in another way, and so on? And that's where the group discussion in this online simulator is very important, at least from my perspective.
And it's not always, thank you, Sun, it's not always about the right answer, because there is no right answer, but it's which would be a better answer than other ones at this moment. And of course, the only way to really find out is to ask the audience. So one way of doing that is in the game, you can click on the head of the person. You can go and look at what they're saying. They tell you why they're in the resistance level that they're in. They give you a bit of a background about who they are. And it's a nice way just to connect with them. So give me a thumbs up if you've made a choice. Excellent. So I know we have to discount, don't we, like some of those earlier scorings, but just because you've got your eye on the session view, who's currently winning?
Ooh, maybe it's easier. I think maybe it's actually easier to see that on as a player, because then you can go down and have a look at the ones.
Okay, yeah. So give me so Tim, you were doing quite well before, although your boat was further behind. What's your current score at the moment as a battle mode player?
So my total score is 740. Last choice was 460.
So anybody got higher than 740? Because Tim's currently in the lead. Okay, Isabel, what have you got? Can't hear you, sorry, Isabel.
Sorry, I've got 805.
Ooh.
And my last choice was 485.
What choice did you make?
Do we talk chapter 1?
Chapter 2, I'm in chapter 2.
Yeah.
So the score is an aggregate score for both of the moves. So, and Isabel, what was your second move?
It was number 2, curated options for customers.
Okay.
So I wanted to invite my colleagues in to talk about ideas and communicate about ideas.
Okay, thank you. All right, Tim, what was your second move?
My second move was, just one second, I have to check the number. It was the inviting colleagues, I think, that one.
Okay,
just one
yeah,
second.
inviting colleagues was...
Yeah. Just one sec. Was it number 5? I'm just looking.
For those of you who want to see what you chose, you can, on the little tick mark with the 5 buttons below, you can click there and you can get into the history view.
Yeah.
It tells you what it means as well. Yeah, yeah. And
I
the
was-
only reason I'm doing it this way, sorry to interrupt, is just to
Alright.
make it more interactive, because what Life and I have back in with the dashboard and the session views, we can actually go and look at the moves that you've made, as can you. Just to make it a bit more interactive, we thought we'd just it's always a good thing, isn't it? What did you do? I don't know, but I got a good result. Yeah, but what did you do? We need to learn. Well, it was rubbish. What did you do? I don't know, but no, we need to know so we can learn. Yeah.
I have a better question, which is I make a big informative interactive event, and I didn't get as many points. Why? What is wrong with this game?
Yeah, well, I didn't write it. I have to talk to Suna about that. But isn't it interesting how that can happen sometimes? You think, well, I did exactly what the book says I should do at this moment. And one of the things, and Life will never tell me the real answer to this, and if I keep asking, please don't ever tell me. I wonder if you have the same people make the same decision and you're the same person, but it happens on a different day, you get the same result. And I'm pretty confident, and I don't know about the game, but I'm pretty confident that you wouldn't. So even if you repeat something that worked before, it doesn't mean it'll work tomorrow, even if it's with the same people, because today the world has moved on. And I think if last year has taught me anything, it's don't assume that what you believe to be true yesterday is going to work tomorrow. And that's a good thing, a good lesson. I think, Maria, you had your hand up just now.
More communication live.
Yeah, yeah. Maria, was there a question?
No, it's not.
I wasn't sure. We just did one move, didn't we?
In both chapters, there's only one move. It's an incredibly simple game.
Oh,
it's 1 of 6 for chapter 1, 1 of 8 for chapter 2, and then it's 1 of 6 again in the last chapter. Yeah.
I thought data discipline was a sure thing here.
Yeah. And how did it go for you, Mads?
Let's not go into that.
It's not, yeah, but you've learned something. Okay?
Yeah, data discipline sucks.
It's important for some people. Yeah. So we're going to start wrapping things up, but why don't you just go ahead and make another move, and let's just see who can get the highest score, because at the end of the day, it's a bit of fun to have the scorings here and to see what's much more important, and I'm not underestimating its significance, is the actual learning in the process. But go ahead and see if you can do a final push and get people a bit further around the cycle. Ideally, we get somebody on board the boat. That would be a good result, right?
So we go to round 3 now?
Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead and finish the final chapter. So we've gone from recognize to request. We're now into the respond mode. So do have a read of the text that comes up. And you got a, actually, it's another choice of 8. Sorry, my mistake.
Yes, choice of 8. Yeah.
We have both Team Anton and Johan has made their 3rd choices, so we can share that in if you want.
Do you want to go and build that for me?
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, the ones that have completed. Anybody that's completed will be, yeah. So Anton, have you completed chapter 3?
Yeah, he has.
Yeah. Thanks. I know you don't do the delivery anymore, Life, but can you come and support me on my workshops? We make a great team. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. What I've been amazed, as we're just looking at some data, what I've been amazed about in this virtual world of working is, like I said before, Acti's always been an online game. But playing online has actually given us, you talk a lot about shorter games, and typically we have less time on online interventions. You have to do things at speed and at pace, but you can still make an impact. You can, even if you only play 2 chapters of a 3-chapter game or 4 chapters of a 6-chapter game. And of course, there's nothing stopping you playing the games in between some of these virtual modules online as well, and getting teams to go off and move on and then come back. So actually the gameplay itself is being played in between live online sessions. So we made some progress. We got, do you remember who is who on these? Is it the same people?
Johan is the blue one. We have Team as the
Yeah, the purple color. Yeah.
Purple color, and yellow is Anton, Johan, and Tim.
Johan and Anton. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah.
Anton. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just look at these three then for a moment. So, Anton, what was your score?
585. I picked number 6, called A Deal.
Number 6, A Deal. And your total score overall?
It's 1,305.
It's a good score. It's not one of the highest. I don't think you'll be in the Hall of Fame, but it's not a bad effort. Yeah.
It was
Tim,
solid, but not
it's solid. It's a solid score. Yeah. Tim, what have you got?
It was 1,295 total. Last choice 555.
Yeah.
And the choice was, I think, number 5.
Number 5. Okay, excellent. And then I think the other one was Johan. Was that right?
Yes.
Johan, what have you got? What was your choice and your score and your final score?
I have the total score of 1,355, and the last choice gave me 665 points.
Tell us which one it was, because that's the highest score out of you three. So what was the move that you made?
Was it number 3, I think? I can't remember. Just let me see.
If you click on the history move, you should find it.
You can also go down and click on it too.
Yeah, it's Leads from Leeds. It's number 3.
Okay.
Good choice.
Good choice. But it is fun to see that there is a difference between blue and will still have a lot of people left behind, right?
Yeah, it's that classic, and Tim and I, we've had this conversation. I'm sure, Tim, you're doing this for illustrative purposes, just to make the point, but in the purple boat there, Tim has polarized people. So he's helped and made some people happy, and then, you know, sort of like a 50-50, if you like. But other people are in those high resistance, level 2 and level 3, and some further back.
Yeah.
And then the
polarized people, yes.
Polarized, yeah.
To hell with the others. I'm off.
Exactly.
So I don't see, and so this is an interesting reflection. I don't see many people on board the boat, despite our intervention. But again, it's a very simple game, so but it's all relative.
We actually reserved it for chapter 4.
There you go.
So so that there should be a repeat chapter in the game, but we haven't decided whether we should do that. But it's actually Anders who turned up a little bit the scoring, the movement ahead.
And the rapid prototyping. I mean, just you can spice and slice and dice and mix it up. Even when you've created a game, as soon as it has the team at Acti, or you can yourself, you can actually help to just tweak it a little bit to make a different point. Because you have to remember that it's not about the game, but it is. You know what I mean? The game enables conversation, and you get all your results and your profiles and things at the end to go deeper into the movements, what people have picked. And this gets really rich, doesn't it? Like when you look at groups playing the game, especially when they're playing in teams, and there's a team challenge mode that you can do for some other game. And it gets really interesting.
Maybe just building on that, because this is where it comes back to the book, is that after the game, like this game, we have added in the resistance movements as the only theory within this game. But you basically add in any theory. As soon as you have the theory in there, it gives you, after the playing game, it gives you a profile of the theory. So how have you chosen to pick your choices theoretically wise? Means that in my game here, I've only created resistance with all of my choices. And if you had another chain theory in there and Cotter, you could then see all of the Cotter choices. How are they distributed over his 8 steps? So the game allows you to create that data afterward on a personal level. So you get this profile once you played the game, and then you can see the gray one here is then measuring against everybody else who's played the game. So you can actually see how you have done yourself, and then you can see how the rest of people playing have done in the same theory. So depending on theory in the game, you can have a look at each of the perspectives of the game's theories added in. So that right now we only have one. If we had Cotter, you could click on Cotter. If we had Mauer or Violence or whatever, you could click on them and then see the same kind of profile. And the last thing that we have added in, which is also connected to the book and the variety of theories, is that we have created a profile view, which allows the users to even dig deeper down into the theories in the games that they are playing. And still, again, we only have one theory in the game, so it doesn't contain that much. But then you can actually add in positive feedback if you have taken the resistance levels a lot. This is what you are likely to create, and this is what you are likely also to create. So it has this option of adding positive and negative feedback into your theories, and that becomes part of the game after you've played the game. And you can customize this also if you have a new theory in. But that brings us back to the book. Are we done? Are you done, Ian?
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you, Leif, for allowing me to play with the group here. Big round of applause for everybody. You're all winners in my book. I hope you learned something. But that data aspect is so powerful. I know that Tim, in particular, has done a lot of research himself in his own practice around those results. So it's a huge opportunity, isn't it, for the game and the book to explore more about the choices that people make. So no, well done all of you, and thanks for the opportunity to play with a new game, and thanks Una for the game. Wonderful.
Thank you, Ian, for
Great
making.
fun.
Shouldn't we give Ian a couple of jazz hands to make sure he feels our gratitude to it? Great facilitator, Ian. Great work, man.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of fun. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. We are now moving into the next point, which is Hempel, who's going to share how they have used it. So now we are going away from theory books and playing around to something that has happened in a company for real, using games and decision making on why and how and what is good and what is bad. So Tina and Christina, you will be the one presenting. So I will unmute myself, and I just want to welcome you first and say a few words on him. We've been working together for many years. You guys have been using Acti since 2015, maybe, in my head, something like that. And you have extensive also on the German that Ian described, so you have a lot of knowledge to share, good and bad. So take it on.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for doing it.
Thank you. And I must say, we normally work in teams, so I'm not sure how I can share my screen here. Where's that button to press?
You're muted, Live.
The big green button in the middle, to the middle, depending on your particular computer.
Share screen. There it goes. Yes,
and then you have
I got it
options
now.
of screen or applications.
There we go. Great. Yes, can you see my screen? I should probably put it in
we can see
show
it.
mode.
Yeah,
presentation mode. Yeah.
I'm trying. Is that better?
It's coming.
Is it not there?
Not in presentation mode.
No?
You're still muted.
If you stop sharing, Christina, and then share again, if you're in presentation mode, it may have picked up a different screen on your computer.
Okay. So I would just try again, you say?
Yeah, just stop sharing and then share again. It may work for you.
Okay, I have to totally stop sharing and then. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Hold on. I need to find the sharing things again.
If you want to see it in sharing, you need to put it into view first down in the bottom. Christina, before you share, you need to put it into speaker's view or presentation mode.
Yes, but the thing is I can't really, here we go. New share. Okay, so I start putting into presentation mode and then I share. Is that what you're saying?
That's it.
Okay, let me try that.
Stop sharing first, Christina.
Okay.
Sharing, yeah.
We are all supposed to be experts on different communication programs these days, right?
There it says stop sharing.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, because many of us, colleagues on the call, we working with different clients, you're encouraged to use WebEx or GoToMeeting or Zoom or Teams. And of course, the thing I find with Teams is the button to share screen is so close to the exit meeting button.
Yeah, I've done that a few times actually.
I've left the meeting when I'm just stopping sharing, thinking, "Oh, where's Ian gone?" And it would be okay, but I'm running the session, so it's quite embarrassing. Yeah.
And advising people to stop sharing is a contradiction in terms, isn't it? We should all
It is.
share.
It is. It's like social distancing. No, physical distancing. Socially, stay together and stay close. Yeah.
This is not working for me.
Yeah. Do you know what?
The thing is, when I
work.
put it in presentation mode, I can't go back to the meeting for some reason.
Okay, but we can
Let's just see if we need to.
Maybe
make
you can do it, Tina.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. That's me.
Christina, just show it as you did before. We can all.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah.
So.
We're not allowed to use Zoom in our company, so we are only allowed to use Teams. So we actually never have been
using that
presenting Zoom before.
And now I can't find it. Great, that's really.
You can't find Zoom.
No.
We know you have it. We know you're there, Christina.
The thing is, I can't find my. All the pop-ups. It's shown where you can actually choose what to share. It's not there anymore. Well, I tried to say.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Now I just share the screen.
Yeah, great.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
And I will try to make it a little bit bigger. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Good. Great. That was fun. Normally I'm quite good at this, and then suddenly I don't know how to do it. Okay. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Leif, for inviting us in to share our experience with ACT. The one who's here today is me, who's in the middle here, and I've been in Hempel for 4 years, and been working with ACT actually also for 4 years with great experience. And I've been working very closely with Tina, who has been in Hempel for 6 years and been working with ACT also for 6 years. And we started out using the ACT gamification face-to-face. And within the last year, we have gone into the digital and virtual world, which we are quite pleased with. We also have Jesper, which is our close colleague and head of training, and he's just about to get certified in ACT because we have chosen to use ACT as one of our platform for our leadership development strategy going forward. So maybe some of you don't know Hempel. I'll just say a few words about who we are. Hempel is founded in 1915 by J.C. Hempel, who was an entrepreneur was a great man, having a lot of vision about delivering paint to a lot of different industries and segments. And today we are operating in many different segments: decorative, protective, container, industrial, and yard markets. And we have our headquarters in Denmark, actually, as you can see, operating around the world. So one of the small places is actually in Denmark, and then we have a lot of both factories and R&D centers, and also offices in around 80 different countries. We are solely owned by Hempel Foundation, which support cultural, humanitarian, and scientific courses, and of course are interested to have a stable economy in our company, Hempel. So that also means we are not influenced by stock market or anything else. We can actually just focus on the core business we're looking into. In terms of development, in terms of learning, because we are operating around the world, we have a huge challenge on scaling up what we are doing. And this is actually where ACT is coming into the picture, because that is actually covering the needs we got there. I'll get more into that. Where we are now in Hempel is that we have had more than 100 years of journey, and what we're joking about inside Hempel is that within those 106 years of being in the market, I think most of the changes we have gone through have been within the last 5 to 6 years. So we have done more changes in Hempel within the last 5 to 6 years than we actually did in the previous years. So, and we just announced our new strategy in November last year. And the strategy is to double Hempel by 2025, because we want to create a double impact in the market, and also with our foundation in terms of helping other people in the world. So going there, there's a lot of initiative we're going to take on. There's a lot of changes going on inside the company, in the market. And one of the things that we are focusing on is to create new capabilities, both for our leaders and our employees, because we want to make a step change in how we work. And this is where Active, again, is coming that can help us doing that. So what we have designed is our new high five strategy for leadership development. The way we have created that is that we have a core leadership focus, where one of the things we're going to look into is change management, because there will be a lot of changes going on from now on to 25 to actually be able to double our size and our business and our segments. So there will be some core leadership skills we want to give to all our leaders. Then we have the functional leadership, which is out in the fingers, as we say in the high five. We have the core in the arm, and then we have functional things in the fingers. All depending on what function you're in, you can have different kind of challenges. But to deal with these challenges, we want to give them some core leadership skills. We also have the fundamental, which is the business understanding, which is more about understanding the business and create the collaboration among our leaders and employees. But as it's shown here, is that ACT in our leadership strategy is going to be put in the core leadership skills we're going to create for all our leaders. And the challenge we have is that we have to reach out to more than, you can say, 80 countries. So how do we do that unless one of us are getting a divorce, giving up our kids, and just traveling around the world to meet everyone to develop them? We can't do that, of course. We were actually trying that before we got virtual. Because there we were traveling a lot, but getting into the virtual world means actually we can reach out to all our 1,000 leaders who's around the world. So the reason why we are choosing ACT for our leadership program is that it's a full virtual learning universe we can go into. And then, of course, based on gamification is just working in terms of make sure that the leaders and the employees are learning about the tools. And just to tell a little about why do we need the virtual learning, what we have identified with the ACT is that, we need to have the scaling up and be able to do that. And going virtual means that we were actually able to do that. I know from Tina, who has been working with ACT a little bit longer than me, she just loved the physical floorboard. And I must admit, I do that as well. And we used a lot of time. We used a whole day before when we went through an ACT game, introducing the theories and so on. And as you just say, Ian, playing the game virtually means that you can actually get the same or more or less impact, but on a higher pace and in a shorter time. And this is one of the key things for us going forward when we're going to reach out in a very short period of time, reaching out to 1,000 leaders to get them on board on understanding how to drive change and how to deal with the different people and the resistance they probably will experience in the organization. So scaling up is one of the things why we want to use ACT. Another thing is that going virtual is, I will say we were quite good at on the face-to-face to get people engaged. We have a lot of techniques and ways to get people engaged, but actually going on a virtual platform, that is a challenge. And what we see in ACT is that actually create that engagement, because you very quickly make people engage and getting them into the game, instead of the facilitators just talking about the theories. They actually get the theories under their skin straight away playing the game. Another good thing about ACT and what was a success criteria for us was it has to be easy to use, because we are in group in the headquarters. We are some people, but we are not enough to actually reach out to all our leaders. So we have to engage the original P&C people, our people and culture or human resource people. And we're going to bring them on board on the ACT platform so they are able to facilitate the games as well. So that was one of the criteria as well. And also it was easy to redesign from a physical point of view into a virtual game. One of the other thing is that it's flexible in terms of topics. And as you saw in the fingers here, we have the core here, but when we go out into the functions, they have different kind of reality, you can say, and they have different kind of challenges. And having this possibility to have flexible topics make it easy for us to actually engage them in more relatable in their world, in their function. So you have CRM when we talk about salespeople, then you can choose some of the other topics if you want some of the other or you want to engage some of the other functions. And one very important thing as well is also is team-based. We were when we did it face-to-face, it was we were sitting in groups and it was very engaging, very team-based, and learned a lot about how to work in groups as well. And one of the things that we want to keep playing this game is that keep on getting them to collaborate across the organization. And we can do that here in terms of the setup in ACT, and actually even better because they have to choose their choice first and then they have to discuss afterwards. And we think that's a really cool thing about this this platform as well. So these are some of the reasons why we have chosen and are using the ACT game in our new leadership strategy. And there's some more things as well, Tina.
Yeah, I got the pleasure of having the last slide to present for you, and just to say, life hasn't paid me for saying this, but our experiences. I mean, I think actually it was used in Hempel even before I joined Live, because it was there, and it was one of the first things I did when I joined Hempel 6 years ago was to get certified in your concept back then. And I think we were looking back, and I think all in all, we actually had more than 300 leaders going through the last sort of 7-8 years through ACT change. And when we sort of look back and evaluate, we can just come to the conclusion that it works because they are super engaging. It is very easy to relate to both, you could say, to the cases that you have designed. What's happening in the case is quite, people can relate to it. They don't find the scenario sort of way out. They can say, okay, yeah, that's something I recognize. But they could also relate it to their everyday, you could say, challenge that they're, the here and now situation. What is it that I need to do in order to make my change successful within my team, within my function? Mm-hmm. And then it has this ability to create some really, really valuable discussions. And we actually find that it is one of the most important and most effective way to anchor learnings, which I think is one of the really, really hardest things nowadays, because we are flooded with free online seminars and workshops and invitations. I don't know how it is in your inbox, but I'm constantly invited to all these interested things, and you sort of jump in and fly out again, and then you just tend to forget because this is information overload. Finding a way to actually anchor the learnings with people, making them remember it. I think we definitely can come to the conclusion in Hempel that having people playing this game and relating to the persons actually makes people remember it. And I would say it's not something that we just think that we know. We actually also have some proofs. We've used ACT change on our one of our leadership talent programs called Explorer. That's been around actually in Hempel for 10 years. And they finish up their journey. It's a 2-year program by putting together a learning report, and it's quite a comprehensive learning report. It's 5-6 pages, executive format, and so. And we can really tell. I mean, for me, having read through hundreds of learning reports, that the gamification and what they learned there is still something that seems to stick. And then just, you could say, the funny thing is that people still seem to remember Mark For those of you who don't know, he is the one that they struggle with moving in the first chapter of the CRM game. And people still come, and even when I meet them years after, they still talk about Mark and how much they struggled and the learning that they made, trying to focus too much energy on moving him instead of focusing on the other stakeholders. So there are some learnings that are actually, you could say, stuck and anchored when using gamification. And like I said, this is one of the major reasons for us going in fully now with Active as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it from us. Over to you again, Leif.
Thank you so much, and as you said, I have not paid you anything, and you won't believe how proud it is as a game designer to have that kind of feedback. And I'm sure everybody is also kind of thinking, oh, that was really. I think we should give them big jazz hands too for that one. Thank you for sharing. And then there might be that was a great presentation of what value actually creates. But I was kind of thinking, is there any questions from you guys that you could ask? And they can also be critical ones, the ones that you think, what about this and what about this? Let's grab the opportunity to ask Hempel some questions about whatever you might have in your minds, and don't be polite. Ask relevant questions, please. Or you don't have to be polite. Means to me, to actually. I'm gonna kill you anyway afterwards.
I just wondered, the games you are using. Is it something that you have designed yourself, or was it as a template there? Okay.
No, we actually have all the way through. Because we're so busy. I mean, we have actually used the CRM, the most popular one, and we used the long version when it was face to face, and we found that the shorter version works better. We still spend a lot of time on it, but we just give the participants a lot of time to discuss it, because we really find that the value is in the discussions, and it's I mean, we have the option to change it, but I think, like I said, the case is so relatable that it's actually quite easy, and we didn't have the need so far to actually amplify it, and we didn't have the time, to be honest, as well.
And you can say, especially within the last year, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago, we implemented a new CRM system. So in that matter, it's just really relevant as well. Yeah. Maria?
Yeah, I have a question. Sure. I'm very convinced about the gamification approach from ACT, and I'm working in Germany as a consultant in leadership and change trainings. And here for me, it's very hard to sell it in the companies. Mm-hmm. The HR people sometimes are very convinced, but then it's difficult for them to what do I say in English? To implement it in the company. What helped you to integrate it in your whole program? Besides that, you are good selling women.
I think most of it, Tina can maybe more say it, but I think it's because it's based on the experience we have so far with our talent programs and the good feedback we got already there. Mm-hmm. So we kind of have some internal experience already saying that this is a great way to learn this new stuff. Okay. So I don't know, Tina, if you want to.
Yeah, I would also say, like I said, I was so lucky that it had already been implemented in the organization on our talent programs when I joined Hempel. And you know, feedback talks, and we evaluate every single element of our talent programs and other leadership trainings, and we could just see that it had you know, really, I mean, the feedback is amazing, of course, also due to our fantastic facilitation, but still, the feedback is amazing, and sort of that opposite talk. So we've never really had any problems convincing anybody, Christina, about that. And I think we also have a pretty large degree of freedom and trust that we are, of course, as long as the feedback is fantastic and excellent, and there's a word of mouth that this really works. I think it's just been a positive snowball effect for us.
Yeah.
So
and
maybe,
I think one of your points, as you just said in the presentation, is it's very easy to relate to in both ways. So when you have the case, in our case, because it's a new CRM system, it's easy to relate to and say, well, it's totally connected to the challenges they have today, and the other way around. It's also easy to come in with good reflective question when you play and say, okay, so having this case here and having this mark, can you recognize a mark in your own part of your organization? So relating it back to their real working life is also easy. And I think that is one of the things that has made it easy for us also to make people to buy in on it. Yeah. You were saying something again, Maria?
Oh, Annette, you have, I think.
Yeah, it's maybe in the companies where it's integrated in programs, it has the same effect than you described, that people really enjoyed it. But when they start programs like setting up a new customer relationship management, then sometimes the HR people don't know how to use this game. And that's, I think, the challenge is when you're an external consultant and not part of the HR department.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But I think Corona will help you here.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
we have two more that have raised their hands. Team Hill and Anne in the top. Let's start with Team.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask if you'd used it with people who work a lot together. So, for example, subgroups of 3 and 4, and those people work together daily, because there's a real double benefit there, I think. Not only obviously leading change better, but also the team dynamics that play out in real life absolutely come out in gamification as well. So I wondered if you'd done that to any degree of depth.
We've done both. So we just have both put people together from all over the world.
Yeah.
The ones who've been identified as leadership talents with senior management potential. But we've definitely also done it with group. And you're right. I mean, when you do it with the group, it has this related even more. I mean, when groups are in the same team, obviously in the same function, right? So it definitely, but we find it actually that it works really well in both scenarios.
Exactly. Yeah. Good.
Anne?
Yes. Hi. I wanted to ask you, it sounded like that you did a lot of measuring on the reactions to the game and the learning, measuring the learning. So have you also seen an effect directly towards your clients and customers? Did some measuring, evaluation on how they perceive you now? I don't know if it's the service or product or what it is that you're looking for to change.
I'm not really sure I understand what your question is. I mean, we are internal, right? So our customers, you could say, they are all our leaders. So could you?
Yeah, but but I'm thinking the end result would be a change in behavior.
Yeah, a change in behavior.
Yeah.
I guess in relation to how and do you understand?
I think in terms of we have done the training in leadership groups, but that has very often just been one happening, you can say, and there hasn't been a huge follow-up on that. In terms of our talent programs, which has been running over 2 years at the time, they end up doing this learning journal and reflection on what have they actually learned. The one who have actually chosen one of the theories from ACT game, they do a lot of reflection on how can I use this in my daily leadership, and that is where we actually see the effect. that maybe we start out with the Acti game in the beginning of the talent program, and after the 2 years they do the learning journal, and there they actually reflect on, okay, so how have I implemented these tools in my daily leadership? And that is a very clear connection there. So you can say, yes, we have seen a change in behavior, and we also get feedback from their managers in terms of how have they received the change over the period that the talent program has been running. Would you agree on that?
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
So in that matter. And I think when we start out doing this huge leadership program, we'll definitely have some following up there as well, in terms of measuring how can we actually see the change in their behavior.
Thank you, Christina and Tina, and thank you for introducing us and giving us some insights on your experience with using Acti as a tool with Hempel. Thank you a lot for taking the time to make the presentation, and thank you everybody for coming with comments and questions. Before I just close in with a few words, I'd like to ask Sune. Sune, would you like to say something before I take the final minute?
No, I think maybe just quickly share, ask Ionis. He had an example in the chat, right? Yes. Maybe you want to share that as the final thing before the closing words. Yeah. Are you here, Ionis? Do you want to share what your experience? Okay.
I've left in the chat box also, so he can respond on that if he likes.
Okay. Nope. Great.
Okay. I of course like to. We're closing in. We have to be respectful of the time. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We are used to leaving our desktop now and going down for a cup of coffee with the family, right? So we want to be very respectful for that. But Sune, first of all, my man, thank you so much for pushing this over the fence and getting it done. Sune, it's been great working with you, and we have a book 2 coming. I have sent a lot of you a mail and asked you to contribute. Want to contribute with your designs into a book so we can share how we're doing stuff. The idea is that we want the book to be an inspiration and to be all of your ideas and ways to work to be added on. That's the idea of this book, and it will also be the idea of the next book. The more we share how to use games, the more games will be played out there, and the more fun people will have learning. So that's basically, and the more the world will change, I believe. And thank you, Ian, for taking us through a lovely game session. Pernille wrote to me private. It was meant to go to all of you. It's been an engaging, great agenda, and I think it has a lot to do with you. And you look so. Ian looks so good. He's got a new camera and light, and I'm a little bit envious. So we have to really compliment him for that.
This is an avatar. It's not really me. I'm much older. I'm much older. Yeah. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Good. And yeah, you know what? I've been trying to, the ones of you who wants to do a review of the book have already written to me. I have your mails. I've been trying to get Amazon to send you a book or a gift card, and it seems to be a problem, but it will come tomorrow or something. And then we would love you to go in and do a review. So all of you who had sent me a mail are receiving a gift card to Amazon tomorrow, and a review would be really nice. That is how a book becomes alive out there. So the more you can do to get it out there and help us with that, the more happy we'll be. That's it.